I'm sure we all understand the fundamentals of how a file works on your computer. For example, you download a video off the internet. That video gets saved to your hard drive and takes up a certain amount of space within it, depending on the file's size. You can then view that video as many times as you want, and that space remains occupied until you decide to delete it. The fundamentals of uploading a file to a website really aren't all that different. You upload your video to that website, then that website has their own hard drive somewhere else in the world where they host your file for you, until one of you decides to delete it. This is more or less exactly how YouTube works. To no surprise, since its very introduction in 2005, the site has had the reputation for being the largest video repository, and it's not even close. In fact, around 500 hours of video is uploaded to YouTube every minute, and that's just from 2022. That is around 3.7 million, or about 82 years worth of videos every day. In case it wasn't already obvious, video files aren't exactly small, and depending on the number of them that occupy the space on a hard drive, this does quickly add up over time. And for a website, it's no exception. Now, of course, they have data centers located all around the world specifically for storing these videos. Google is a big company, and they have the means and infrastructure to continuously build these and update them. But it must reach a certain limit eventually, right? We're talking about amounts of storage that most of us can't even fathom, and it's only getting bigger. So how does YouTube do it? Well, the platform's ability to host all this content for all this time has been driven by multiple factors, including large amounts of capital, innovative technologies, good timing, and even luck. In fact, these factors are a big reason for why YouTube doesn't really have any competitors. Yes, of course, there's TikTok, but that's a very nuanced comparison, and we'll get more into that in a minute. We first need to provide a little historical context for the time when YouTube first launched. Video sharing sites certainly did exist, but there were problems. They were often just hyperlinks that required users to actually download the video file to their computer in order to view it, rather than using an online video player. The ones that did have a video player were often placed behind paywalls, and users also had to pay to upload their own content depending on how much space they were taking up on the web servers. There was also an upload limit. There was a bit of a barrier to entry, and the concept of such a site was essentially in its experimental phases. YouTube was revolutionary because it was the first video website to solve these problems. As long as you had Flash Player installed, you could watch it through a built-in video player, and anybody could upload videos to the site for free. Additionally, you could also embed these videos on your website, where people could also play them online away from the site. Yes, websites like Newgrounds were arguably the closest thing to a YouTube-like site at the time, since it also had a built-in player, but there was a 5 megabyte limit on Flash files, and the audience for Newgrounds was much more niche and oriented towards gaming rather than silly videos. In fact, YouTube didn't introduce an upload limit until around 2006 to combat copyright infringement, and even then, it was only limited to 10 minutes. Naturally, YouTube's simplistic design and mission statement allowed it to blow up, and almost immediately after, other video sharing sites with very similar setups started emerging. I've talked more in detail about all this in the past on my YouTube history series, but luck was actually a huge component in why YouTube survived as the leading video sharing site while these other ones quickly died out. Because you're probably wondering, how was a website founded by 3 PayPal employees able to afford to support all this bandwidth for these videos? Well, the answer is they couldn't. This was actually becoming a huge problem for the site at that time. From 2005 to 2006, YouTube hosted all its content on a web service called Server Beach. At this time, the company had a special where clients could use unlimited bandwidth for their sites if they paid a certain price for it for a specified length of time. These servers were where all the videos would go. While Server Beach offered unlimited bandwidth, it was more like unlimited bandwidth. It was really meant to entice people who had reasonable means of operation for a website and didn't want to deal with too many constraints. Basically give them more freedom. But because YouTube was such an outlier, this loophole in advertising, for lack of a better word, was starting to become unsustainable. Just for perspective, by 2007, YouTube consumed as much bandwidth as the entire internet in 2000. Server Beach was biting off more than it could chew, and something quickly had to be done. Yes, YouTube's market value was skyrocketing at this time, but in terms of its actual cash reserves, the company was bleeding money because of this issue. Now, this is an important distinction to make, because it may sound a bit confusing that a company can be worth so much money and have no money at the same time. And this certainly does happen. You see, the actual vision of YouTube, along with its execution of that vision, was obviously super attractive to wealthy companies, regardless of its economic viability and how well they were managing their finances. It was YouTube's intrinsic value that was high, not the actual amount of money they had in their bank accounts. But they did often complement each other. In fact, this was how YouTube even got their money in the first place, through something called venture capital. Investment firms that believed in the prospect of YouTube would give them all this money in exchange for private equity within the company. And of course, this money would go towards funding all of YouTube's operating costs, which included infrastructure for storing videos on web servers. But of course, YouTube could only continue asking for so much money. It was on its way to reaching its limit. The company was too successful and was becoming unable to sustain itself from all the demand, and the revenue generated through advertising just wasn't enough. The future of YouTube was bleak, and it wasn't 100% sure if they would even be around by 2007. The only way this business model could continue to be sustainable is if it was taken over by another company, a company almost too wealthy for its own good, that could in fact have the means and infrastructure to make all this video storage possible. Are you looking for something new? An exciting new chapter in your career? Well, you've come to the right place. I'm Peter John, and I'm here to help you take the World Wide Web to its maximum potential as your friendly neighborhood cyber job recruiter. With just some typing and a couple of clicks, who knows? Maybe you'll get a job that pays more than mine. Let's see what we have here. Quite a few. Hand model for Luke Skywalker, White House intern for President Clinton, financial advisor for Enron. Is it just me, or do these feel a bit uninspired? Private equity in a company called Google? What kind of name is... You get some silly ones in here occasionally. I think you and I can do better, and I know just the job for you. Introducing Triple 10, the platform that allows people from all walks of life to thrive in an increasingly technological world. Learn a whole new way of navigating the tech world through their online boot camps, which guarantee a job in the tech field, a successful portfolio, and the utmost professional preparation. In fact, 87% of people who have graduated from Triple 10 got hired in 6 months or less. They are so confident that if you end up not getting a job, they will give you a full refund. And if you use my code on the screen, you can get 30% off on all their programs. And if you use my link in the description, you can get a free career consultation. What's that? You're tired of YouTube sponsorships? Okay, well, I'm a job recruiter. Can't do miracles. Check out Triple 10. Opportunity is out there. So, in October of 2006, Google purchased YouTube for $1.65 billion worth of Google stock. Arguably one of the most controversial acquisitions in modern history, but it was absolutely necessary in keeping YouTube from going under. So, with all that historical context kept in mind, it makes perfect sense why YouTube hasn't really seen much competition in the online space, and is one of the big reasons why sites like Dailymotion and Vimeo haven't seen the same kind of traffic. By showing up so early on and getting bought out at just the right time, they were incredibly lucky to survive. Which brings us to now. Did Google's acquisition of YouTube solve the storage problem? Or did it just put a very long-term Band-Aid on it? According to some sources, YouTube has never made a profit, at least not until very recently. While detailed information on this is not 100% known, it is likely that YouTube's net losses are still less than Google's net income each year. So while YouTube itself may not be profitable, Google still is, which is ultimately the only thing that matters. We call this a loss leader, where companies intentionally lose money on a certain product to attract more people to use the products that actually would make them a profit. YouTube is basically Google's version of Costco's food court. People using YouTube increases their exposure to Google and therefore increases their chances to make Google money in other ways. All of this is a contentious and highly debated subject. A lot of the information on how Google categorizes YouTube's earnings and costs in their annual reports is rather ambiguous. So in many respects, we can really only speculate. However, this would provide an explanation for how YouTube is still able to continue existing despite possibly still not making a profit even now. It is a big reason for why YouTube has so many ads and why they're pushing for ads and subscriptions has been quite aggressive in recent time. They might quite literally just need it to offset these high bandwidth costs. As they say, when a product is free, you are the product. But the good news is that Google's innovative approaches to rapidly advancing technologies may eventually solve this problem in the long run. One big part of this is through something we're all familiar with called compression. Thanks to compression, we can take a 200 megabyte video file and turn it into 50 megabytes, while still keeping the video's quality the same. Now, at face value, this probably sounds like magic. How is this even possible? Imagine you just bought a new couch. You've just taken everything out of the box and put it all together, and now you have a lovely new piece of furniture in your living room. But there's one problem. Your living room is still full of all the shipping boxes. Compression is like throwing all these boxes in the trash. Your couch is still there, exactly the same as it was before, but now you have more space in your house. Compression basically removes any redundant or unnecessary data that doesn't compromise the integrity of the file itself. A common method of doing this with video is through lowering something known as the bitrate. You can often get away with lowering a decent amount of it without diminishing video quality. Here in Adobe Premiere, I can export my video with a bitrate just above 11 megabits per second, and it'll keep the visual quality pretty much identical. But look at the difference in file sizes compared to the original preset. Although typically if you go below this threshold, that's when you will start to see the quality of the video go down. This is known as lossy compression, as some data is in fact being discarded to make the files smaller, but usually not enough for your eyes and ears to immediately notice. In fact, sometimes you can even notice the quality degradation on videos that depict things like confetti. This is pretty much what YouTube does to save space, and when doing this on multiple videos that are uploaded every second, the amount of space that is saved adds up tremendously over time compared to if they used no compression at all. YouTube, of course, also has the advantage of occupying the space of videos that get deleted off the platform. But even this is an incredibly complicated situation as well. YouTube not only keeps backups of all these videos on their databases, but multiple backups. They keep copies that are each of a different quality, and from these, copies that are each of a different format to support a wide range of device types. The YouTube channel Computer File did a video covering this in more detail back in 2013. According to YouTube staff at that time, each individual video uploaded to the site had around a couple dozen backups of it, and this was just back then. So just in case this number you heard earlier was already crazy on its own, it is even so much more than you likely thought. When it comes to deleted YouTube videos, it's an even more interesting setup. Whenever you delete a video on YouTube, you have to check a button acknowledging that all deletions are permanent and cannot be reversed. That's because YouTube does not keep a backup of deleted videos, at least not for long. There have been case-by-case instances of big YouTube channels getting hacked and having their videos get deleted or even their entire accounts closed, and thankfully those situations have been able to get resolved. So while these actions are permanent, it is likely that videos that do get deleted go through a sort of escrow, where it is flagged for deletion for an unspecified amount of time until Google's next spring cleaning session or whatever. It is likely that YouTube only reverses these decisions with serious or high-profile situations because they just don't have the time or frankly care to help out everybody. But when these videos eventually do successfully get wiped off these servers, another video will just come in and take their place. But you might still be thinking, with all of this, how on earth is Google making this sustainable? Is YouTube ever going to reach its limit? Remarkably, it is possible that they won't, thanks to something called Moore's Law. Moore's Law states that the number of transistors in a computer's circuits doubles around every 2 years, which means that more data can be stored in a smaller amount of space and is cheaper to purchase. And of course, over time, this compounds exponentially. For perspective, a 5 megabyte hard drive in the 1950s was about the size of a bookshelf and costed around $1.3 million in today's money. I am holding in my hand right now 1 terabyte, and it costed me $80. As Einstein put it, compounding really is the 8th wonder of the world. Who knows what I'll be holding in my hand 10 years from now? Now apply this concept to all the data centers that Google has. Their servers contain exabytes upon exabytes of storage. An exabyte is around 1 billion gigabytes. If we decide to be really generous and assume that each video uploaded to YouTube is 1 gigabyte large, and also assume that no videos are being deleted from the site, that would mean around 3.7 petabytes of new storage is being taken up by Google servers every day. If we were to continue this trend until we reach 10 exabytes, which is the estimated size of all of Google servers, it would take around 7.5 years to fill it all up. And with Moore's Law, a lot can happen in this amount of time. That gives Google plenty of time to update their infrastructure to make their storage even larger by then, potentially even exponentially larger. And again, this is all assuming that each video is 1 gigabyte large and nothing ever gets deleted off YouTube. With the way things really operate, this length of time could be even larger. So, as astronomical as these numbers are, the power of Moore's Law does appear to be exceeding the demand of YouTube. And in this regard, it is very likely that YouTube may never run out of space. And as this technology advances and becomes more cost-efficient, we may very well increase our chances of seeing a comparable YouTube competitor. TikTok is certainly our closest contender at this present moment. However, these videos are typically much shorter and follow different viewing formats and algorithms entirely, really making them more comparable to YouTube Shorts than anything. This smaller format, of course, only works to its advantage, but with TikTok's continued rapid growth, we may very well see things change, and perhaps YouTube may not be the sole lucky survivor after all. I talk about the development of YouTube in much greater detail in my first episode of YouTube history, which you can find here. A special thanks to all my Patreon supporters down below. You can also buy me a coffee as well. Wouldn't stop you from doing that. Thank you for watching, everybody.